Welcome back to another episode of Net Talk. I'm Mitch.
I'm Alex.
And we're... wow.
New guest.
Liam, you introduce yourself.
You should totally do that together.
Yeah.
That would be perfect.
And we're joined by Liam Sketcher.
Yeah. I wasn't going to join you, sorry.
Rubbish.
Yeah, Liam, before we introduce you, we are going to do a bit of a slay and shame. Everyone knows what we're doing. You're going first, though, as always.
Damn it.
It's tradition Alex goes first so that I have time to think of what I actually did this week.
And our guest gets even longer.
Yeah, so you have all the time in the world to think of it.
Yeah. Well, my slay. I don't know. We should have introduced Liam first, but he is an Australian coach coaching overseas. So maybe this will make you a bit homesick. Had a lovely, my slay can be the Triple J Hottest 100.
Yeah.
Had a lovely little listening event.
Do you listen from Germany or not?
No, and the timing's not great for it either.
Yeah, couldn't be a nighttime party overnight. German nightlife.
Well, we were on the bus. We were on the bus back from a game, so maybe I missed an opportunity there.
Yeah. And my shame can be backhanded to we went to a tournament. Well, I didn't go. I just went to watch Mitch coach a team. But I just don't think I'm ready to sit in a stadium again for a full
that
day.
long.
Sitting in a stadium watching volleyball, lovely.
Yeah.
But you just need to find ways to get out of the stadium, I reckon. And
It's annoying.
I'm not ready after off season to go sit in the stadium for 6 hours.
Yeah, and we're going to be doing that a lot this year with our coaching.
Which will be good.
It's annoying. We were at MSAC, so it should have been good, but it was hot. It was,
Yeah.
My slay was, I was just thinking about this with Kate, but it was my first ever stint coaching Prem 1 women, and we won.
Yeah.
So I'm undefeated. Actually, no, that's a lie. We lost the first 2 games the first day, learnt some lessons, and then rolled through the comp the next day. So it was great.
In Renegades fashion,
True Renegades fashion.
qualify for finals by default. Almost because the tournament was a bit small, a bit narrow at the top division.
Yeah. Hey, prize money is prize money.
Yeah.
My shame can be to the weather. It is disgustingly hot. And I, as you said, being in that stadium, I've still got a headache to this day. I was drinking so much water. All right, Liam, give us your slay and shame.
Slay was my wife made an amazing lemon cake this week. Unfortunately, I had to share it with the guys on the team. Less than me, but it was top notch.
You couldn't have accidentally left it at home or something? Said, I forgot to bring it on the bus.
Yeah.
She did bring it to the gym, so it was kind of hard to hide it behind stuff while the guys were walking past. Shame, not a big shame, but we didn't win yesterday. But we fought really hard and some positive stuff from the game. So, but still, winning is the job.
Winning is by far the best part. Low-key. All right, we've kept everyone in suspense, I'm sure. But Liam, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Liam. I'm not the Liam in the photo in the background. I'm Liam Sketcher. I'm a professional volleyball coach from Australia. I'm currently working in the Bundesliga in Germany. I'm from Melbourne, so I've had the pleasure of coaching multiple buys. Started when I started playing. I basically didn't play volleyball until I was more or less 21. I started at school. I played for 2 terms and then didn't play for a couple of years. And at my club, someone said, I think you'd be good at coaching. And I said, I have no idea what I'm doing. And they said, that doesn't matter, and still doesn't matter. So, coached the Div 2 women, which was all girls from schools in the nearby area. Was an assistant for state teams, coached under 15 state team, coached under 17 state team, assistant coach for AVL, did some national junior team stuff, going to camps and things. Got invited to go on a tour with national junior program. Got asked to move to Canberra to work at the what were we calling it then? Something else. What was
Centre
the
of Excellence,
transition?
maybe?
COE back then?
Before that, I think, it was just as they were finishing being an AIS program.
Yeah.
So in that little window, And I was there for a while, and then wanted to try the next challenge. So found a way to get over to Europe, and that was 10 years ago. And in that time, when I'm not working with clubs, it's been a national team for 5 or 6 years. So the national team going to World Championships, Asian Championships, VNL, this kind of stuff. And then now my summer job is I sit next to a microphone and watch good games of volleyball and say the names. So I do commentary for VNL. It's my current summer job. So that's pretty much me.
That's a tough job, though. It takes a bit of skill, as people that might have listened to us speak over games heard.
We're certainly not very good at it.
Bit of different commentary.
No, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. Like,
my pleasure.
A wealth of knowledge. And Alex and I are really going to put that to the test. And I got to run trials in 2 days, so I'm going to be taking notes of the whole thing.
Good.
And I'm at the beginning of that coaching journey. Well, now I've had a year coaching, but I got approached to coach a team because there was a new team that needed a coach, and that's probably how a lot of people get exposed to their first stint of coaching, especially in Australia. So it's lovely to hear from someone that's then taken that journey to probably what the most of that Australia can offer, and then finding that connection overseas as well, and truly beyond.
Yeah, I think it goes to show that, like, a lot of people, which we'll talk about later in the pod, but it goes to show that there actually is a pathway, which is something we want to talk about later. But like, I certainly never thought so. Now we're like, oh, maybe this could be a thing. But do you have anything before we move on to the first topic?
No, we can jump into the first little point we want to make, which probably comes to that difference between where you begin and where you are now. What is actually the difference between high-level coaching and how you're treating it now versus when you're developing, and maybe any crossover that someone can implement?
It's really a continuum. It's, if you look at it similarly to being a player, there's a level of technical development that's required. So, you have to learn how to dig and set the ball and serve and these things. As a coach, you need to learn how to run a practice, like how you plan what you're doing, what you're trying to get out of a session, how to think about it a little bit beyond sometimes just, okay, how do we stay entertained for an hour and a half, 2 hours? And a lot of it is developing your concept of the game and what you want to get out of your team, how you want them to play, how you want them to do that. So how does your understanding of the technical side of the game tie into your concept of gameplay and systems? There's also some other technical knowledge. So the sports sciencey type stuff, like how are you managing players for load? How are you preventing injuries? How are you making sure that they're physically prepared well? Then the data part of it. So scouting and using scouting, whether it's doing yourself or getting someone else to do it, and what you want them to do, how to turn that into usable information for your team. And the biggest part of it at a professional level is generally just managing people day to day. You just spend a lot more time with your players. You see them basically every day. If I don't see my team for sort of 2 days, it feels a bit weird. It's like coming back from school holidays. You're like, oh, what have you been up to? Like, it's been 48 hours since you've seen each other. But it's you just spend a lot of time together. You're managing little ups and downs and big ups and downs and injuries and limits to court time. And I think that's probably the biggest difference day to day. But it's the journey from, okay, how do I get through a practice with everyone being engaged and they're improving on something, to tying all the bits together and being able to do that consistently.
Yeah, right. That, I was going to say before you started answering that, is probably one of the most loaded questions I reckon I've seen.
Nice easy one to start.
I I told you we were going to test you.
It's the warm up. You've got the practice, so we're seeing how you roll out.
Morning
Just
here.
straight into
I've
it.
just woken up.
Yeah.
Straight out of bed. No, but that was a really, really impressive answer. Pretty much answered it pretty well for me. That not a huge surprise for you to say it's player management, but I think purely because I think us now having a podcast and getting to talk with people like yourself, Nathan Roberts, Alyssa, and our other unnamed guest who's going to be releasing next week. But the higher you sort of go, the more it does become about like player management, and I find that really interesting. That I guess that maybe a year or two ago for me that would have been unexpected.
Yeah, because it is interesting to hear, even in the professional setting, you're putting player personalities probably and like understanding what training environment or what they respond to across probably a very long season still at the forefront versus to an audience member, maybe you just start to look at people as what is their contract with this team? How long have they been here? Cut them. Get rid of this player. They hit 10 errors this game. But as a coach, you're like, you can really see the person behind it.
And you get the background as well, I imagine.
Yeah, and that's part of recruiting, part of building a team, is trying to find not just the best players, but the right players, the personalities that will fit with how you're going to work.
Yeah.
At some point, you just have to take the guys that you have, and sometimes it is this guy could be difficult, but he helps us.
Yeah.
And that part of the day to day is, and so to go a little further back, my background was working in special needs education. So a lot, and I think you'll find with a lot of coaches and good coaches, not all, but there's a really strong connection between teaching backgrounds and coaching. Like there's a lot of crossover skills with people thinking about learning styles, like you said, and how people respond to different things, how you can manage different personalities. Some guys you need to poke, some guys you need to calm down, some guys you can leave them to do their own thing, some guys you have to stand next to a lot. Some guys will tell you when there's a problem, some guys will not. The best sort of practical example is when you keep track of how people are going. So when at the end of each session, when they give a number out of 10, how hard do they think it was? And some guys are always at a 7 and some guys are always at a 4 no matter what you do. And some guys 4 is someone else's 8. It's just learning who you've got and trying to find the right angle with different people.
What? Going back to that original question, but like that is just brought this to my mind. What's the hardest part of high performance coaching as opposed to like the coaching, like regular coaching? Like when you got to like a level like the Bundesliga or the Australian senior national team, like what's the hardest thing that potentially you wouldn't have thought about?
That is a good question. I think the hardest part is you have to disappoint people.
Yeah.
Not everyone plays as much as they would like. Yet you ask for everyone to give the same amount of time and the same amount of effort and the same amount of attention to practice and being away from friends and being away from social lives and giving up huge amounts of their time for some financial reward, but yeah, like you're asking people to give up a huge amount and you can't give everyone the same amount back. So you're always going to be disappointing someone.
That's so relatable considering trials is this week.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to go out and you're going to have to go out and disappoint a whole lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really...
I'd say if anyone's been involved in watching me play volleyball, they're used to being disappointed. So that's,
yeah, nice. What about like when you get to that, you know, Alex and I have discussions regularly about like coaching styles and just things we see in high level matches. You know, what do we see in the tournament on the weekend with Premier 1 women? What do we see in the Verona and Lube upset on the weekend with the Supercoppa Italia?
Yeah.
Like, what are like in your network of high level coaches and stuff? What do you guys talk about? Like, I guess it's probably the same sort of stuff, but is there anything like I'm missing? Like, I don't know. Like,
no, it's pretty similar. We just talk about volleyball a lot.
Yeah.
I think part of the nice thing of the network is you have a group of people who actually ask how you're doing.
yeah.
And because it's one of the things as the coach, the players almost never ask, how are you? Like your job is to go, hey, how are you doing? How are you feeling? Like, and you ask that question a lot. And you don't get asked that question a lot. So that's a really nice part of
Being a part of a network.
So to have a group of people who are actually somewhat interested in you as a person, but absolutely the same. Yeah. Oh, did you see this game? How's that guy going? I've heard this is happening over there.
Yeah.
What do you think about this team player situation? It's really similar, but maybe sometimes we come from the other side of the conversation. If I was the coach, I would be doing this, or I know that guy, so I would have done this, or I've
Yeah.
I think it's really, really similar. Just we're talking about
Higher level.
different people. Yeah.
Yeah, we're just talking about AVL being like, oh, I would have done this.
I would not have.
Fair enough.
Probably more often than not.
Yeah.
Sure.
This is what I do in the summer.
Yeah.
This happened on court. They can do that. Maybe I'd do it different. But.
Have you ever talking about VNL commentary? I'm going on a tangent because this is what this is all about. I don't care. These questions are great, but we'll get to it. You ever have to bite your tongue in VNL commentary? Maybe like, oh, that's a questionable move at best. Like, yeah, plenty. I thought so.
How much interaction with players being a head coach pre them coming to your club? Are you speaking to players and scouting them, or is someone else doing a lot of the legwork for you, or do you enjoy doing that bit too?
It's a sort of a two-parter of like I'll talk to guys, but not with the intention of them coming to my team.
Yep.
There's guys that I've coached who we play against, so that's always nice to catch up. But that's why it's good to be there, is you get to talk to people and see them in person and be present at the games, it's just a different experience to watching on TV. But when building a team, part of it is, as a coach, normally you have a fair amount of input into how your team is built. But there'll be a sports chief is sort of the German word for it, or the sport manager, director, CEO, GM, whatever. And you usually work in collaboration with them. So they tell you how much money you have to spend, and you say, why don't we have more money? I want this player. And then you have the other side of agents who are trying to sell you guys. So a couple of times a year, you'll get messages and you'll have a chat. And so like yesterday at the game we're at, there was a guy from one of the big agencies. So you have a chat, you keep the relationship good. They will try and sell you players that you either don't necessarily want or can't afford. And you will say no a lot, but you still have to be nice. So it's going through all of that, because they might have someone that you hadn't seen or didn't know, or they might say, we were looking for a good spot for this guy, so we're willing to take a cut on his contract in order to make that happen. Or but it's sort of you're looking and other people are selling.
Fair enough.
Tracks with like sort of, you see everyone during like the college phase release their highlight tapes, and I can just imagine being that college head coach, you're probably getting so many people's highlights and reels just like from your staff. So they're probably already cut down, but it's just one after the other, and then you don't really see. Are you looking for anything, maybe anything minor that you like in players, or sort of any overlooked details in those players?
Every coach is looking for something a little bit different. Like you always want physical and technical ability. And where players are coming from and their personalities are also a really big part of it. So it's like for one thing, I watch them all on mute because some people have terrible taste in music.
I was literally about to say that. It was literally because as a musician, you're a fellow musician, so I was like, I'm gonna shame him on this podcast because I love him to bits. Jose Martinez, pick better music for your highlight reels. You're an Olympian, man.
Yeah, it's and the big thing is just don't make it too long. Like it's like like if you're a musician, you send a demo tape to someone. Like you're not going to send them 15 tracks. You're going to send them your best 4, and you put the best one at the start.
Absolutely,
You want to grab him in the first 30 seconds. You want it to be organized, so I know where I'm looking. So I'm not, okay, where is he? I have to find him on the screen, and by then the action's finished. And so to be organized in sort of attacks, reception, serve, block in groups, and to make it clear who you are. And if I need to see more than sort of 10 actions from each, then it's a business card is what it is. So you're introducing yourself to me and trying to make yourself look interesting, and then it's on me to go and find more if I want to see more, which is not so difficult, much less difficult than it was 10 years ago before volumetrics.
Yeah. It's like everyone's got full, like my YouTube, I've had to go and unsubscribe from a lot of just random channels. They just upload everything. Like it's just so accessible, which is good. But
we still struggle to see the Bundesliga though, specifically.
We do.
So
we do.
It is the tough thing about like the Australian market for us watching. It's been really good this year that everything's just on VBTV as well. But then it's still like the lack of commentary. But so that's just actually watching volleyball for volleyball. And
they're getting there, I think. Yeah,
it's good to really see it available.
Yeah, with Germany, it's the deal that we have through the league. It's behind a paywall with the company that does basketball and handball and table tennis, I think, which is surprisingly popular in Germany. That's, and I think even in Europe, it's difficult to get access to. So, but for Germany, this has long been tangent. This has long been the challenge of, at one point in the sort of 90s, I think, early 90s, the German state TV company said, we want to put some sport on, and we have a choice between handball and volleyball. And it ended up that it went in the direction of handball. And then for a long time, volleyball was sort of, well, we're waiting for television. So you couldn't really see a lot of games from Germany. And then 2 or 3 years ago, they said, okay, we need to do something. So a production company, which is run by ex-beach player and some of his friends, said, we'll put it together. And for a couple of years, it was free on Twitch. And the quality was really good. There was a lot of extra content as well, not just the games. But the deal was always, at some point, they will sell it to someone for cash. Because that's how the world works. So.
I mean, fair enough. Like we've talked about doing that for State League as well. And I mean, if your league is in a good enough spot to be broadcast and pay a shitload of cash for it, like go nuts. But Alex and I would prefer it if it was on BBTV.
I'll pass that on.
Let them know for us.
Hey, we have some magic powers though, because we talked about Plus Liga not being on VBTV
a week later,
and then a week later it happened, and it was like, oh yeah, no, we don't have any connections. And then
it's amazing how fast that can happen once you guys say something.
And then we talked about the Japanese SV League, and we're like, man, it's really unfortunate they missed the start of the season for the SV League, and then it popped up on VBTV.
Yeah, like the day after we recorded.
It's almost as if it's just volleyball is in a really good growth period, like in how all those leagues are happening. And it's good to be able to see more of those teams in Champions League as well. Like, so it is being able to watch more volleyball everywhere.
It's good.
And it's for me the difference of when I started playing and coaching, you just couldn't see. Like, someone had a hard drive somewhere with 3 games from Italy, or the first game I watched from Europe was like, I was 4 or 5 years into coaching, and I saw 1 game from Poland. And it was only because Igor Yudin and Ben Hardy were playing that anyone was kind of working to find a way.
To watch it.
And now you can watch everything all the time.
Yeah.
It's so different. It's great.
We're spoiled for choice. We really are. Back to the original questions that we had written. So, like, when we talk about, like, you know, every coach has their, like, coaching philosophy. Like, we saw yours on, I think, Volley Brains, you said? Like, I think it was, you can't fix your players, but you can
help them improve.
You can help them improve.
I think it was.
Yeah. Like, does that still stand as more or less yours? And, like, how did you get to that? Like, or has it changed? Like, yeah.
Yeah, Matthias, the Volley Brains guy. Thanks for pulling that quote. But it's for me, the basic idea is that no one's trying to make mistakes. Like, everyone's trying to do the best that they can, and that my job is to help them do the best that they can. But part of that is they have to fit in with everyone moving in the same direction. So it's working around the idea of motivation. Why are they motivated? What motivates them? And how can you grab a hold of that? And that if you look at players as something that is fundamentally broken or inadequate, then you're approaching it from the wrong angle. Like, people have limits to what they can do, but also a lot of people don't know what they don't know, or don't see themselves in the same way as you. Like, they can't see themselves from the outside. And even at high level volleyball, there is a lot of players who are lacking in confidence to the point of they play to not make mistakes. So you're trying to create an environment where people are challenged. They have to work at the top end of their ability, but also you have to recognize when they're trying to do the things that you're asking them to do, and your job is then to provide the technical, tactical, emotional support. And the support isn't always, hey, you're doing great, keep going. Sometimes is, you can do better and you have to do better, because I know you can do better. That's probably the idea for me. Is everyone's trying to do their best. Like, no one's making mistakes on purpose, and finding out what they understand and what they see, and asking the question, how did that feel, or what were you thinking, it gives you a lot of useful information as a coach as to what the player thinks they need to work on and what you think they need to work on, and try to bring them a bit closer to each other.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, because relating back to my slay of the week, my first stint coaching Premier 1 women, I've been, I'm still fairly young, but I have been coaching for a number of years now. And as I've slowly learned lesson after lesson after lesson, the one thing for me, and I'd be curious to know how you feel about this, is you can get quite a long way just through giving your players the confidence and the license to go out and make mistakes. I'm not going to bash anyone, but like, the team that I had, we hadn't trained. This is a preseason tournament. We hadn't trained together. We learned a lot of mistakes, but some of the players had come from backgrounds where a mistake was then sort of issued as a really, really bad thing. And it took us the first day, so the Saturday where we lost both games, to essentially get out of like, I want you to go make mistakes. Like, I want you to go and figure it out. Like, I'm giving you the license to go and do these things. Come back day 2 and dominate. So I really like that you pointed that out. Like, it's nice to hear from that extends all the way to the top.
You reach a point, and when money becomes involved.
I was wondering when that would come into play.
It's this is my career, this is my livelihood. So our ability to execute those things has an impact on my ability to make my living. But for me, that's also the part of, you have a responsibility to your teammates. You have a responsibility to other people. So the staff and the sponsors and the people who support what we do, that if you're not giving enough, then you're letting those people down as well as yourself. But accountability with others. But yeah, like I've worked at clubs where the feeling of practice was I'm here to practice well enough that I don't get yelled at.
Yeah.
I know it probably just gets more and more complex as the challenge in a non-professional environment is managing game time, and that's kind of all a player can see for themselves. I guess you're then implementing player value in terms of their contracts or how long they've been there, their role in the club. Do you work extra hard to build a good culture within your team and so everyone is working towards the same goal?
Culture is what you do every day. I think if you need to be conscious of what is happening every day, and you need to have some values, some direction, some rules. They don't need to be rules, but some structure. But it's the little things you do every day, how you talk to people, how you behave. Are you always on time and organized and prepared and showing the behaviors that you want your team to have? Because generally, up until the sort of the really top end where guys are pretty much going to do what they're going to do no matter what the coach tells them because they're good enough. And the teams will take on a lot of the personality of their coach. So who you are and what you do every day inevitably becomes reflected in your team and how they behave. And it's both quite easy and quite difficult to change that stuff. But I think if you approach culture as a set of rules, it becomes challenging and disconnected. I think if you approach culture as here is the stuff we're going to do every day and just keep people accountable. And it can be simple things. Yeah. Be on time, be prepared. When there's a moment to listen, you're listening. When the time is to talk, you talk. Look after each other, be respectful. Like you said, here's the chance to go and take a risk. Here's the chance to go and learn some stuff. I need you to do that instead of just being safe.
Was that a scary first step from assistant coaching and or lower head coaching roles to being your first solo professional head coach? Is that a scary step where you're maybe thinking twice about everything you've done and doing lots of reflection?
Yeah. Bit of the imposter syndrome lives strong.
Yeah, and it's even as much as you prepare, it's the part of, okay, what's it actually going to be like? It's like first day at school. I've been to school before, but what if it's different? And sometimes it's just where different cultures, different players, different languages, how it all fits together. But it's sort of like being the first day in prison. Like you have to come in and make sure everyone knows that this is how it's gonna go, and things sort of fall in. You don't have to fight anyone on the first day, but you have to sort of from the culture. If the culture is what you do every day, you have to come in and establish that idea from day one. And at some point as well. So when coaches yell, sometimes it's because we're actually mad, and sometimes it's for effect. Usually you have to pick out a moment pretty early on to say, I'm willing to set a hard line on something. Just to say, okay, there are boundaries here, and I will accept some things, but there's an end point to patience and but sometimes that has to be for effect, just so the players know that it's there.
Yeah, okay.
We test our coaches' patience a lot.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Gus knows we're goofballs by now, though. He's just like, okay. It's all right. We win, mostly.
Yeah, the culture shifted probably to accept some of that, as long as it's still going in a positive direction, which is why there is a lot of variation in teams, because I know some teams where that wouldn't fly and it would just be cut short. But with the players we have, that's what we value.
What works for us and for Gus, I think.
He doesn't get angry with us anymore. So
No,
it must work now.
It must work. Yeah.
We've all seen Gus lose it, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Gus is a great man, huge contributor to volleyball. So,
Yeah, he truly is.
Yeah.
Last one before we hear from our sponsor, unless you've got any more, Alex. With trainings, like, I don't want to get too specific because I think that, like, the last thing I would want is for you to tell what you do in a training and for everyone just to copy that with no
learning from,
like, no idea of
lesson.
why you do any of that. And like, that's a whole nother episode. But how often, like, how do you handle things such as you're doing a drill, you're doing 6-on-6 and it's not going well? How do you as a coach either deal with that and like intervene into training? Like, how do you deal with that situation and recover training and or I guess that's the
or even not necessarily just stepping in when things are going bad, reinforcing positive things in players.
even
like,
that
when
as
do
well.
you step in?
Yeah.
When things are not going well, it's usually a lack of attention.
Okay.
So directing people's attention to a certain, your skill as a coach there is choosing where to direct the attention. So part of this is how you have constructed the practice of what you want to get out of it. So it's saying, okay, today we're focusing on our block in this situation. So, hey, we need to make sure we pay attention to blah, blah, blah. And let's execute that really well. And because generally bad volleyball is because everyone's attention is going in different directions.
Yeah.
Or it's just not there. So getting everyone's attention on one thing is the first step for me. So, hey, we're paying attention to this. Let's be on it. And there's usually enough accountability within the group that if someone doesn't do it, someone will go, hey, you got to do it. And usually things flow from there. Some days suck and they suck. And part of your skill as a coach is saying, let's just get over it today and come back tomorrow. I have that luxury because I see the guys 5, 6, we're on court together sort of 8 times a week. Whereas when you have 2 practices or 1 practice, it's a lot of pressure that this has got to be good. Now we have to get through everything. But that part of some days it's just not going to happen. Hopefully those days aren't very often. If they are, then you probably have a bigger problem to deal with. But when people are tired or you've had a really heavy schedule, or as is often the case when it's exam time or the weather sucks and this kind of stuff. So for when I was in Denmark, it was February they had their exams and the weather's cold and dark and the motivation to get out of the house is really low. So you have to adjust. So, okay, we're going to have these sessions be hard. These sessions are let's get in, let's do some work and get out feeling okay. We're sort of getting close to exam time here and the weather's not awesome. So and it's individuals. I've got some uni guys. I've got a couple of guys who are working jobs beside. I've got guys who are full-time professionals. And you have to balance their life a little bit as well. The encouragement one is a lot easier. Something that, yes, that was good. That's the action. Can be enough. Generally, what I try and do, and I don't always succeed at this, and I haven't done it as much this year as I have in the past, but that if I can't walk through the court without stopping and give the information that I want to give, I'm taking too long. So that's my keep it short, can be positive, can be critical, but I need to walk through. And it doesn't always need to be big and loud. Sometimes just walking through and a 3-second conversation with someone as you're walking past, or 3-second comment as you're walking past, and then keep going. And doesn't have to be a big deal. Doesn't have to stop everyone. My biggest consistent fault as a coach is I talk too much.
Well, I was literally about to say that's good advice for me because my God, sometimes it's hard to shut me up.
That was my reflection on my first full season coaching a junior team was trying to condense my information in my own head first, so it has a peak clarity for junior minds as well that are going through exams and whatnot.
Yeah.
But also I'd stutter or I'd waffle or I'd be talking about blocking and then I'd be like, well, actually the defender needs to move here as well. And then I'd be like, oh, well, that's too much. And I'm really directing. And like I spoke to other coaches about trying to get that out. They're like, well, you just need to have your focus and you can work on anything at any point. You don't necessarily need to do it all at once. And sort of probably across the season, like I was talking about that mid-season and I was like, maybe I've left this a bit too late because now we're getting ready for finals, but sort of you got to think about the whole context.
I remember we had that conversation. I think we both agreed, like, you just got to bite the bullet that you cannot give them all the information.
Yeah.
Like, only give them what they need. One more question.
Yep.
Before we hit another, sorry, another tangent. It just got me thinking, I don't know if you're allowed to share this information, so if you can't, it's okay. I just realized that your budget for the team must include a range of, from everything from full-time professionals to part-time to, I guess, some people that are like amateurs, I guess. Does that include that, or is everyone getting something?
Everyone gets something.
Yeah.
So, but in the Bundesliga, there's a whole range. So the all the teams playing playoffs and most of the teams below that, everyone gets paid something. Berlin are full-time professionals.
Yeah.
Friedrichshafen full-time professionals. Like the top 5 teams, everyone's full-time.
Yeah.
And this, it becomes often with like local guys, so not just German players, but like we have one of our guys here who's local.
Yeah.
But he's played with the team for a long time. So for him to think about life after volleyball, it makes sense that he's doing something beside that.
Yeah.
So he works beside. If he wanted to, he could just play volleyball, but he knows that he's not retiring on volleyball money. So so he works his job next to it. Some of the guys have jobs that are sort of volleyball adjacent to make a bit extra. So doing stuff with the juniors at the club, doing some of the admin stuff, these kind of things. But for it's important that even the guys who are getting paid the least are getting paid something because their time is worth something.
Yeah.
And there's one club in the Bundesliga who don't pay their players. Cool. So they came up from lower leagues and said, we're not spending more money. And basically they've run into the issue of guys are sick of giving up time for no real reward.
And probably getting rolled
and as much as you love playing, as much as you love playing, it's a really big commitment.
Yeah.
And you're giving up a lot of stuff, so you need to get something in return.
Yeah, and even as you said, like those people that are looking for a little supplemental stuff within the club is what we try and do with state league teams. Yeah. We try and get people to be involved in the junior programs, in helping the culture of the whole club so the whole club can grow and benefit. It's good to see and hear that it still happens at people that are getting paid and people don't just cash their check, however big, however small, and go home.
Comforting for me, who was at a committee meeting trying to convince everyone that we should start down that track, knowing that they actually do it over there. Yeah. And it's the reason why I was mostly motivated to start coaching was that I didn't have to pay state league fees.
Yeah.
I could play for free. And that was like, okay, I'm kind of interested in coaching, but I'm more interested in playing. But
it helps me.
I was studying and working bits on the side and not really making much cash. So to save that money was a big plus. So
I got one more. I'm sorry. I got
one more on the topic.
I got one more. Okay. Just because Alex and I are planning a thing, we're not going to announce it on air yet. But this is going to.
that thing you told me about before. Yeah. I'm not allowed to talk about it.
No.
He's in charge of the editing, so he'll cut it out.
But like this is interesting for people, I think. Mostly because you and I compare a lot of the things we talk about to genuinely more bigger sports in America and the way they run their leagues and stuff like that. And I was watching a video by that really good sports analyst, Sports Ball, maybe a few weeks ago, about the EPL and how when you go up a division, so when they do promotion relegation, there's a few different tiers of the way they fund that entire league. Obviously, clubs are responsible for paying their players and X, Y, Z. But when you get promoted into that league, you get a percentage of the market share from the network sponsor or the broadcast. Is that?
No.
Because like that club that came up, it's not like that in the Bundesliga, I'm assuming. No. Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, the audience's experience with that might be through the comedic thing. If anyone's watched Welcome to Wrexham, they budget based on they are getting promoted. They go over their budget banking on that they will go up a division, which is a big gamble, and you have to have money behind it. And Bundesliga,
I guess they don't.
I'll try and shorten this answer. The huge difference between basically American sport and European sport. In America, the top level is all franchises. It's their businesses.
Yeah.
In Germany, for volleyball, there was only really one team that was operating that way, which was Frankfurt, where I used to work, where it was just a team. There was no real club behind it. But almost every other club or every other team is a club. It's like your local footy club where you can go and play from, Auskick through to whatever, except for the whatever is the top league in the country. And across Europe, this is more or less the case. So they're generally community-based. The sponsorship element is still largely community-based, but the value to the clubs are, so the bit to the sponsors are sort of networking opportunities. So you're trying to connect with other businesses in your community. The biggest club in Switzerland, MAVSL, it's a tiny little town. There's not really anything else in the region. So I think they have several hundred sponsors, but it's because that's the business hub for their part of the region. So for people to meet each other, you pay your 1,000 francs as a sponsor and you get to go to the dinner at the games or whatever. And then you have 500 of those sponsors, there's your budget is pretty well covered without, because someone's going to spend more. So
that's interesting. All right. I don't have any more questions that I'm
But
willing
some
to ask. Interesting thoughts.
So we'll just take the break. Finally,
sorry.
for
Someone
our
has
sponsor.
to take charge here, Alex.
Yeah. We'll be back in just a moment.
This episode is brought to you by Andor Financial.
Now, as some of you know, a good friend of ours, good friend of the show, and our Melbourne Uni Renegades captain, Michael Cirillo, has recently started his own mortgage broking business.
Not only this, but Mike and Andor Financial have committed to supporting and sponsoring Net Talk for the indefinite future.
If you didn't know, Mike has spent the last 10 years in the finance industry in both financial planning and mortgage broking roles, and is super passionate about empowering people to take control of their financial future.
So you, or if anyone you know is in need of a home loan or would like to review their current lending situation, reach out to Mike and Andor Financial.
You can find out more information in the footnotes or description down below.
Thank you again to Andor Financial for sponsoring Net Talk.
Welcome back from that. We're just going to dive right back into some more coaching, but more probably focused on the pathway, recommend people on how to develop themselves as coaches.
Yeah, so for any Australian-based coaches, I mean, this can apply elsewhere as well, but Australian specifically, we're going to ask Liam some questions about, his journey, as well as some advice potentially you have on. Now, I guess it would be easier now than when you had to go through it. My assumption would be.
Maybe a little bit more resources available?
It's different.
Yeah.
That's a really unhelpful answer.
I suppose I suppose because volleyball is now bigger, that would probably mean it's more competitive, but it's more networking.
But the local level, because there's just so many more clubs popping up and more teams, there's always clubs looking for coaches
We probably
as your
go-
entry point.
We can probably go around this table
back and
forever
forth, back and forth.
about that. Yeah. But so your pathway, club volleyball, Victorian state teams, AVL, AIS, and then beyond. Is that roughly the oh my God, I can't speak.
Yeah. what was maybe just like for the lowest level or the transition from low level to maybe high local, and then any pointers from the transition to then actually being a full-time coach within Australia, because I assume that's a relatively
That's a big jump.
like big jump, and then the even bigger jump from Australia to overseas.
The overarching message for this is you have to be willing to do it. It's not enough to say that you would like to do it. So, yeah, when I had to make the choice to change what I did for my work, and it was never my plan to become a professional coach. I just kept saying yes to things and then would figure out how to deal with it later. But then, yeah, I had to change my work from working in a school to working in events. So I would get up at 3:30 every morning to start work at 5 and finish at 2 so I could coach after school and in the evening and train myself. And then when someone said, do you want to move to Canberra? I'm like, okay, I'll move to Canberra. And then, do you want to move to Europe? Yeah, okay, I'll move to Europe. And
why not?
I've been moving for the last 10 years, more or less. So, I don't. For most of that time, I don't have a home. I live out of my suitcase, more or less the whole time.
Never unpack into the wardrobe.
Yeah, just sort of.
Throw it in.
But I think the main thing is, and that's the question, is there's a lot of resources. Resources are helpful. Opportunities to coach are really good. You have to do the hours, you have to fail, you have to make mistakes, you have to be willing to learn and listen, and listening and accepting that you make mistakes is not easy for anybody. You need to be in a situation where you are getting feedback as a coach, that there's someone who you respect, someone who you can see the value in what they do as a coach, is willing to give you some information, some criticism, some feedback on what you do. For me, I was super, super lucky. So Bill McCall was the first guy who got me into coaching, and Bill was like, okay, here's stuff that you can do better. Like, here's the idea of what you should be doing. And then to work in the state program with guys who aren't there anymore, but Rick McWaters, who was at Girton, and Rob Strawn was one of his mates, and then Michael Miller, who used to be at Billanook. Just maybe not amazing volleyball coaches, but guys who were committed to helping people improve and developing young people, and those characteristics are really valuable. And to have someone who's a little bit further down the road say, hey, you're doing a good job, keep going. Comes back to our thing of, not very often do people ask coaches, how are you going?
Yeah.
We're expected to have answers. We're expected to know what's going on, when sometimes you're maybe only this far ahead of the people you're coaching. So, and I think coaching, you can sort of come at it from two angles of, I have playing knowledge, technical knowledge, the volleyball side, and then there's the people side, and it has to be a mixture of the two, because it's the argument of, why do great players not become great coaches? Because they might not be able to explain it because it was instinctive for them, but also technical, tactical knowledge is really valuable, but working with people is also really valuable. So you've got to get the right blend for you. But yeah, that getting involved in things like state programs and national junior program stuff, and getting exposed to what's happening a little bit further ahead, find like resources on the internet. VolleyBrains is awesome, and I'm not completely biased about that, but like Matthias, he's a friend of mine, or a person who I'm friendly with. I've never actually met him in person, but we talk quite a bit. That's how it works in volleyball.
Yeah, that's like the coaching connections, finding connections that you don't actually see.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, the connections through.
Yeah, I've got people who I consider my friends, and we've never met each other.
Yeah.
We're just volleyball friends on the internet. So that sounds a bit lame, but
I actually completely feel that 100%. As a composer, I have so many close friends I've never met. And it's just, it's probably rare though, but how would you, other than organically, but if you were starting from scratch, like you know, we have coaches not under us, but working with us in lower teams that we, you know, sort of help out. Advice for them to start networking, like what would you sort of have, like just get out there, Facebook groups, like Instagram, or would you take a more ask questions from people you see and interact with, and or just, I guess both is a good answer, but yeah.
You answered your own question.
Not on your own tangent.
Yeah, both.
Yeah.
It's the same as going to a game. Watching a game on video and watching a game in person is a different experience. So having someone that can be there and see you and your body language and your communication and the players and how they react to it, and all of this stuff is a lot easier in person. To talk about bigger questions or more specific situations, sometimes you can take that away from being in person and do that online. The surprising thing about volleyball is, you know, people who love volleyball like talking about volleyball, and you'll find that most coaches, most people are happy to give some sort of information as long as there's some connection. It's not, you know, if you get random questions on, you know, from someone on Instagram about, you know, something, we're not always going to be, I'll help. But if you have some connection, most people should be willing to have some sort of conversation. And it's amazing, particularly at the high level, once you, like, wearing a national team tracksuit opens so many doors for conversations. Like, I would walk into the hotel and you have to fake confidence sometimes, and you go, Thomas Samalvo, how are you doing? I've got a question about this. And he'll sit and have a chat. And Andrea Anastasi, hey, how's it going? Hey, yeah, let's talk.
You got any spare Aussie tracksuits lying around for Alex and I?
My parents are moving house, so there's a suitcase full of them. If you guys,
is that because you also don't want the jersey or the polo color? I think in that VNL was the teal one.
Oh yeah,
I think it was called ceramic.
Woeful.
Hey, it was not particularly popular.
Yeah, they gave it to the junior camp after, or the junior tour after, I think, because no one wanted the leftover stock.
Yeah, it wasn't tremendously popular. With Mark, there was always a push that we have green and gold, like the traditional colours. And for the playing uniform, we could, but to get the right colours for tracksuits and things apparently was too hard. But talk to people. Like, even if it's that, you don't have to talk to the best coaches, and you don't have to agree with what everyone says. Like, go ask Gus a question, what he thinks, and Gus will give you an answer, and you don't have to 100% agree, but you also have to say, okay, why does he think that way? What's his experience that leads him to feel that way? Talk to, and like national junior programs and stuff, there is opportunity. I know from me, it felt like, that's out here somewhere, I can't get there. Until someone says, you're under 17 state coach, well, you should be coming to this camp.
There is actually a lot of advertisements for volunteers at those junior Oz camps as well. You just need the level 2 accreditation, which it's not easy to get, but it's not terribly difficult. If you're a state club coach, you'll be there in no time.
Hours, and it's actually, coaching accreditations in Australia are generally easier to get than in Europe. So
Yeah, we have some hot takes on those, I reckon.
Well, it is just like for any coach, that's honestly not enough. Like, because that, yes, gets you the piece of paper that says you can do it, you need to have the mindset that you're approaching it with a lot more.
Yeah. And it's, like part of that is also just the geography. Australia, it's really big. It's hard to organise to be places and do stuff in person, and that's understandable. The way that I always looked at it is that if I behave like a professional and treat it like I'm a professional, and I didn't always know what that meant, at some point you will start to get treated like a professional. So for me, that was like, okay, be on time, be prepared, be responsible, treat people as well as you can. And then people will want to work with you, and that opens up doors for other things. And being professional is not having a clipboard and a tracksuit or having technology or whatever. It's a behavioral thing. And being a professional is not about getting paid money. So you can get paid money and be unprofessional. You can be a volunteer coach and do a fantastic job in a way that is really valuable to the people that you work with, and puts you in a situation where people want to work with you again. And I think that's the big part for getting those next opportunities, is being someone that people want to take to the camps and to spend time with and to go on tour with and hire to work with every day for 9 months of the year. And it's a working relationship. I look at some of the teams that I've coached against and coached against this year, where it just doesn't look like they enjoy being there every day.
Which is brutal when you're having to do it every day.
It's so having that environment where people want to come and learn and are willing to be challenged, like you're suggesting, like it's that they know that it's a good place to be and that they're going to be respected. And those qualities as a coach, I think, are super valuable and can carry you a long way while you develop other parts. So that's probably my actual answer of, think about your behavior and the behaviors that you want to model for people, and being organized and on time and all of these things. And you can start developing ideas about technique and systems and all this other stuff, but just creating an environment that is good, and people will respect that, and people will say that they're doing good things, and that opens doors for other stuff. Have the conversations, ask questions, watch stuff, have a good bullshit detector. There's a big industry, particularly in America, because getting college scholarships is worth a lot of money. Here's the technique that's going to fix everything, or
heard a lot of that
before. like the split step on reception. Okay, it is a skill. It's a tool that players can use, but it's not applicable at all levels. It's not applicable in all situations. It's not something that you can teach up until a certain level of technical competence exists already. And there's times when it's the wrong thing to do, where it makes it harder and takes away from the actual skill you're trying to execute of understanding what the server is trying to do, and then putting your platform in a position to deal with that. But we could go into a really long philosophical conversation about these things, but
it's probably just on the point of, like, it comes up every now and again that your philosophy and your coaching ideology changes as you keep going.
Absolutely.
Hopefully improves consistently.
Hopefully. I'll let you know how it's going.
How do you still do that yourself? Is it talking to other coaches in other professional leagues that you have connections with, and just keep yourself thinking about what they're doing as well? Or maybe even assistant coaches giving you a piece of their mind every now and again?
I haven't really had an assistant coach give me a piece of his mind in a while. But,
You haven't hired one of us, obviously.
yeah. Yes. Yeah. Like, talk to people, watch games and see why did he do that? So not watching games that, like, I'll watch games and I don't watch a huge amount of games because I watch a lot of volleyball to be prepared for our games. But sometimes you'll watch stuff and go, oh, why are they doing that? Or you'll just watch what the middles are doing, or you just watch what the reception group is doing. And try and break it down, because a whole volleyball game is a lot of stuff happening to take in at once. Yeah. And, like, I cannot watch a game and go, oh, well, this and this and this and this and this happened. I have to watch and concentrate on one part to really get something out of it. So I think that's really a useful thing to do and now that it's easier to watch on repeat as well, I'm just going to watch what the receivers did here, or I'm just going to watch what the block did. And, like, I think once you reach a certain point, when you've access to it, data answers a lot of questions. So why are we not scoring well in this situation? Well, okay, here's what the data says. Here's what teams who are good at it. And then you look at, okay, what are they doing? How is that different to us? But at the base, you have to have some simple but strong ideas about what you're trying to do. So, like, reception, the number one goal of reception is to get the ball to go where you want it to go. And the important part of that most of the time is what you do with your platform. Yeah. So platform dictates whatever happens. So it works downstream from that. Not, I have to do my split step and then I have to get center line and this is the cart leading course. Yeah.
When we did that episode with Nathan, he like, it's so funny how we as juniors, like, I don't know if you got it, but I certainly got it. And this is no detriment to the coaching, but this is just what was taught. It was just, you must midline, must get your body behind the ball. And then now it's, you must never midline. Like, it's just like, but then, like, I guess if you look at the highest of the highest, they're not doing that. And then you start asking these questions and you go, all right, well, why? And then you start figuring out, like, if I midline and the ball moves up, I've got nothing. Like, and then you start problem solving, and I really like that. Yeah.
Yeah. A little point on that is, like, we asked Nathan Roberts what he looks for when he watches volleyball, because it is what players do. Often players look for someone in similar position, maybe similar build to them, similar what they want to get to. And it's probably really important for anyone listening that is a player as well, or is a coach, that you have that perspective from both sides, because the best players in the world understand this same concept of watching others and learning and building. It's a technique that works for every part of volleyball.
And they're working with the same simple idea of make the right angle. Yeah. The ball hits you and the ball goes more or less where I want it to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Except Grebenikov. Don't watch Grebenikov.
That's so
He's
funny.
A fantastic player, but, like, every young libero that I speak to, who's your favorite? Oh, Grebenikov. Like, yeah, but he does stuff that is not technically consistent, but his spatial awareness, his body control is phenomenal.
He makes it next level, just 99% off.
But he does it in a way that doesn't easily translate to what other people can do.
Yeah. Which is funny because my Instagram feed at the moment is absolutely destroyed by Splitskep and Grabenikov's new, like, academy he's setting up. So it's funny you mentioned both those things.
I would like to go to that academy and see how he teaches it, because he might have some understanding of something in his head that makes sense, that just looks at it from a different angle, which would be totally interesting. I may not want to use it. I may not be able to translate that into what I do, but to hear someone else's idea, and that's the part of, okay, I can process that. I can take some of it. I can discard some of it.
It's funny though. It's probably a hot topic in this room because I don't think anyone's really denying the fact that the French team is probably the best passing unit on the planet right now.
And this has been Well, this group, it's really they've transitioned. It's almost out of like their golden generation.
Yeah.
But for a long time, this was the thing. This is the most talented team on the planet in terms of technical ability, and they're using different technique. They were a lot of breaking arms and stuff, which now for defense in particular, the idea we teach is just get two hands in the right direction, and as long as you have something, the ball is going to go kind of where you want it, and the more control we can have, more time, the better, but just get the two hands going.
Yeah, as long as it's positive and you can run multiple options, that's fine. You can better the ball with your
as long as you can not let the other team score. Like, get the ball off the floor is the goal. So,
which the French are very good at, apparently.
Yeah.
Their development system also is really good. They have strong support from clubs. They have a good national academy program. I know we talked about previously before we were recording, like watching their national under 16 championships or something. And they're playing real volleyball. Like the setters are running a pretty good offense. Like they've got good technique on reception and defense. Their hitters are thinking more than just hit the ball hard. They're playing shots and super impressive.
Wild at 15. I don't know what I was doing at 15, but it certainly wasn't that.
I think we'd progressed to setting from 2. I think we'd progressed from setting from 2, but I was still playing a bit. Actually, I was probably first state team. It was state team.
I hope you mean regressed, but anyway.
It depends. Well, actually, for like juniors, I think state team I was doing a lot different, and then school team it was like me and one other person just trying to keep the ball up.
But then you see at some point, and it's a little bit of a dip at the moment, but in the past, Australia can still produce really good international level players. We have that capability. It's about almost the same as what we're talking about coaching, being committed to it. One of my friends would talk about Australia doesn't necessarily need the best athletes, but we need the guys who are willing to go live in a country where it's dark and cold for very little money for a couple of years while they get good at it.
Which is hard when most of Australia is very nice weather all the year round. Most of the year round.
Not now, too hot.
Not right now,
I like winter, so it's okay for me. But
is that why we produce so many more better beach volleyballers? Because they get the Australian summer and then they get the international summer and then they just go back and forth getting the best weather and the best beaches.
Yeah, maybe.
Being a beach player is really tough, though.
Yeah.
Like it's you and your partner on the road together, and it's the qualification process is really
even
hard.
less guaranteed money. Or no guaranteed money.
Absolutely, that's the hard part. Like unless you're supported by a national federation, which luckily a lot of the Australian beach players have good support. But you can be there without a coach. You can be there without a physio. You have to find ways to lift weights in a different hotel every other week, and that's a really tough life. And particularly not knowing, can you pay the bills? Is tough. So, but then it's nice weather and that kind of stuff. I have zero tan, so I'm the opposite of that. But
same here. Don't worry.
I was going to say same, and I've been playing beach
you actually play beach.
Outside.
I love how far off topic we've got, but that is probably about all the time we've got. Thank you so much, Sketch. Do people call you Sketch?
Every Australian calls me Sketch.
Sick. Yeah. I'm joining the club on that because it's, I don't know, like Liam is fine, but I already know Liam. So
I feel like I'm in trouble when I get called Liam.
All right, cool. Yeah, Sketch it
like
is.
Most of the players here call me Coach.
Okay.
Some people call me Liam. A lot of people call me Liam because that's what happens in Europe.
Because English.
Every Australian since I've been 6 years old calls me Sketch.
All right, cool. Well, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, hopefully all the listeners took not just mimicry of what they've heard and they actually try and understand methods and growing themselves. No doubt we'll have lots more conversations about that.
Yeah.
Try and pass on a little bit.
Yeah. Hope you enjoyed this episode. You can find us on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Discord, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. And yeah, we'll catch you all in the next one. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.